Hello friends, this is Kumar and I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel. Friends, today we are going to discuss Refugee Mother and Child, which has been written by Chinua Achebe. First of all, let us discuss something about the poet. Albert Chinua Lumugo Achebe, popularly known as Chinua Achebe, born 16 November 1930, died 21st March 2013, was a Nigerian novelist, poet, professor and critic. He is best known for his first novel, Things Fall Apart, which was published in 1958, which is the most widely read book in modern African literature. Raised by parents in the Igbo town of Ugudi in southeastern Nigeria, Achebe excelled at school and won a scholarship for undergraduate studies. He became fascinated with world religions and traditional African cultures and began writing stories as a university student. After graduation, he worked for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service and soon moved to the metropolis of Lagos. He gained worldwide attention for Things Fall Apart in the late 1950s, for his later novels include No Longer at Ease 1960, Arrow of God 1964, A Man of the People 1966, and Anthills of the Savannah 1987. Achebe wrote his novels in English and defended the use of English in African literature. Achebe's novels focus on the traditions of Igbo society, the effect of Christian influences, and the clash of values during and after the colonial era. His style relies heavily on the Igbo tradition and is known for its straightforward narration. He also published a number of short stories, children's books, and essay collections. From 2009 till his death, he worked as a professor of African Studies at Brown University of Rhode Island in United States. In this poem, the poet gives a pathetic description of a mother and her child as seen in a refugee camp. Everywhere in that camp, there are starkly visible signs of starvation, disease, and death. Most mothers are themselves so weak and in such a wretched state that they have stopped caring for their children. However, one particular mother described in the poem is combing the hair of her little child who can die any moment. This act of the mother becomes all the most poignant when we realize that it is not part of the daily routine but a mother's tender touch of farewell to her dying child. The poet's comparison of the mother and her child with Madonna and child shows the depth and tenderness of the mother's love for her child. By the use of this religious and pious image, the poet asserts the complete attention of the reader, and then he proceeds to describe the life of people living in the refugee camp. Foul smell and stench of diarrhea pervade all through the camp. There are shocking sights of starvation and malnutrition. The horrible sight of poverty, disease, and starvation is conveyed through such images as unwashed children with washed out ribs and dried up bottoms. Now let us discuss the poem in detail. No Madonna and child could touch that picture of a mother's tenderness for a son she soon would have to forget. Madonna is Virgin Mary, mother of Jesus Christ. Child, Christ as a babe. And tenderness means quality of being kind, gentle, and loving. The picture of Madonna with her child is the finest image of motherhood. It gives us almost a palpable feel of kindness, love, and tenderness. But the poet says that even this image of Madonna and child could not surpass the picture of a mother filled with tender feelings for a son she would soon have to forget. Thus, the poet creates a most poignant image that one can never perceive in one's imagination. The words Madonna and child are here a clear reference to the numerous pictures and paintings of the Virgin Mary with the Christ child. The poignancy of all these paintings is further reinforced by the knowledge that the child will die a death witnessed by its mother. All these ideas exist in the picture described by Achebe. It is the picture of a refugee mother tenderly holding her dying child. The refugee mother will have to come to terms with her grief in the same way as the Virgin Mary had to come to terms with the crucifixion of her son. The poet says that no depiction of Virgin Mary ever expressed more tenderness than does the reality of a refugee mother tenderly caring for her dying child. The air was heavy with odors of diarrhea of unwashed children with washed out ribs and dried up bottoms, struggling in labored steps behind blown empty valleys. Odor means unpleasant smells. Diarrhea is an illness in which waste matter is emptied from the bowels much more frequently than normal. In Hindi it is known as dast ki bimari. Washed out rib means clearly visible bones of a chest, like those of a skeleton. Dried up bottoms are the bottoms, hips with no flesh on them. Labored steps means having difficulty in walking. Blown empty bellies means distended or swollen stomachs that are empty within. Here the poet gives a graphic picture of the refugee camp. The air is heavy with the smells of diarrhea. The children remain unwashed because their bowels keep opening too often and their mothers have now stopped washing them. The children have grown so big that little flesh has been left on their bodies. Their protruding ribs look like those of a skeleton. Their bottoms too have dried up and it has become painful for them to walk a few steps even. And when they walk, their legs labor behind swollen stomachs that are empty inside. What a horrible picture of poverty, disease, and starvation the poet has drawn in these lines. Most mothers there had long ceased to care, but not this one. She held a ghost smile between her teeth, and in her eyes the ghost of a mother's pride as she combed the rust-colored hair left on his skull, and then, singing in her eyes, began carefully to part it. Ceased means stopped. Ghost smile means the smile that looks like that of a ghost, only the remnant of a smile. Singing in her eyes means her eyes appear to sing a lullaby. लोरी गाती हुई प्रतीत हो रही हैं उसकी आंखें. Most mothers in the camp no longer cared for their terribly sick children. They had lost all hope of their survival and had resigned themselves to their fate. However, the mother the poet has focused on is very different. She is still holding the child tenderly in her lap. A faint smile appears between her teeth and in her eyes, and there appears a slight glow of a mother's pride as she combs the rust-colored hair left on the child's skull. The description of the child's hair is full of deep pathos. The rusty color of the hair indicates that the child is suffering from kwashiorkor, a dangerous form of malnutrition that is caused by not eating enough protein. It is also to be noted that the poet has used the word skull instead of head to reinforce the image of a body that is no more than a skeleton. And as she begins carefully to part the child's hair, her eyes seem to be singing a lullaby to lull the child to sleep in peace forever. This poignant description of the poet sends shivers down the reader's spine. In another life, this would have been a little daily act of no consequence before his breakfast and school. Now she did it like putting flowers on a tiny grave. In another life means in a different situation. Of no consequence mean of no importance. The poet sees this particular mother parting carefully her child's hair. The poet is reminded of all the mothers of the world doing the same thing. He says that in a different situation, it would have been a little act of daily routine and of no importance. All mothers comb and part the hair of their children before breakfast or before they leave for school. But this mother was doing it as if she were putting flowers on a tiny grave. It was a final act of tender love for a child who was not leaving for school, but for the other world. The last two lines of this poem are unparalleled in their pathos. Here, our present poem finally ends. Refugee Mother and Child is an immensely moving poem which portrays the pain of a mother whose son is on the verge of death. And it is a very painful and very realistic poem. I hope you understand the poem, and if you felt that this poem is good, if you felt that I analyzed the poem in a very deep and realistic way, then please like, comment and share the video, and please subscribe the channel for further such updates. This much all in this lecture. Stay tuned for further lecture. Thank you very much for joining us.